Call the meeting to order, and appreciate each and every one of you coming tonight, because without you guys coming, we don't know how you guys feel. And just because stuff is on Facebook, it doesn't mean it's right. And so that's why I stress people to come to the city council. You can go public comments, you got 3 minutes. If you wanna have more than 3 minutes, come see Bill the week before so you can be on the agenda. Okay, this is gonna take a while. Jamie, start with introducing yourself, telling us who you are, who you're affiliated with, and everybody tell us.
Ed Warmeister, Public Works.
Jamie Reynolds, Chapman Police.
Austin Murphy, Golf Course.
Citizen.
Phyllis Cheney, Citizen.
Kevin Durst, Chapman Police.
Cecil Thrush, Chapman Fire.
Kathy Fahey, Citizen.
Joshua Chambers, Citizen.
Jennifer Chambers, Citizen.
Tom Monmouth, we're happy to be here.
Go ahead, introduce.
Kim Baumberger, Kansas Forest Service.
Wayne Strobel, Kansas Forest Service.
Liz Lindsay, Citizen.
Brandy Sensmeyer, Dickinson County News Times.
Carl Brown, Citizen.
Crystal Reynolds, Fire Department.
Dennis Steinauer, resident.
Susan Steinauer, resident.
Glenda Dixon, resident.
V. Bryce Forth, Chapman Fire.
Logan Cool, Fire Department.
Chance Holgren, Fire Department.
Kyle Beatty.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
John Bosschultz, Fire.
Kyle Beatty, Citizen.
Mike Brown, previous police chief, and a lot of years in firefighting and EMS.
Grade 80 citizen. John Harris, 35 years a retired teacher here and 20 years on the fire department.
Brian Sweet, Citizen.
Jeffrey Winger, Storm Spotter.
Doug Kiesling, Storm Spotter.
Christy Loy, resident.
Okay, we got one more that's signing in.
Craig Lucas, Chapman firefighter on the department for 12 years.
Okay. If you didn't sign in, would you sign in before you leave? Okay. Okay, we thank you again for coming. And we've got 4 out of the 5 here. Did I get approval of the minutes of regular council meeting for November the 8th, 2023, payroll 2023-49, 2350 withholding, 2351 final bills. Been moved and second to approve these appropriation ordinances. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, 4-0.
Make a motion to change your public comments and the tree inventory discussion by Kim. Put Kim in front of public comments.
And move in second to put tree inventory discussion before public comments. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, 4-0. Okay, you got the floor, Kim.
Well, good evening, everyone. I am Kim Baumberger with the Kansas Forest Service. I'm a 20-year community forester with the agency, and as many of you know, I'm about to retire, so I'm very happy to be with you this evening and to finish up the wonderful project that so many folks helped with. We got a couple in the back, the Monistat, Cheryl, everyone that helped with the tree inventory. So I appreciate a little bit of your time this evening to go over some things. So you all have my 21-page written report, right? So we try to collect all of this data, much like a research project, right? So the report It's telling you what we did, where we worked, who was involved, and what the findings are. But there's that executive summary on the front that I hope is helpful to you, because it's hard to read that much, right, folks, as busy as everyone is. Now, you all have a more summarized information that I'm hoping is helpful for this meeting, and I know I'm supposed to talk fast, and I'll do my best. But I thought there were some things that, maybe something I say prompts some questions. Because in the end, we do these inventories to collect data that then the tree board in the city then understands what's the status of your trees. So then you understand maybe what we need to be looking at in the next 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. Whatever it is your resources are gonna allow you to do to undertake this tree work, right? So nothing here am I telling you has to be done tomorrow, next year. Tree care and tree management is a long-term investment. So please remember that. And I always try to say things up front. So the purpose of this inventory is to gather information, like I said. And based on what you see here, maybe you can set some goals and some objectives. And I tried to weave them, some of those into the longer report. Because then, based on what you see and where you want to see your tree program go to, then you can actually look at what is the things we can actually do to push forward this goal. Say, right now you have 48 different types of trees in your community. In the next 10 years, you want to increase that to 60. So how would you go about doing that? Well, the tree board's going to guide you a lot on that, right, folks? But it's the idea of this is to give you data to look ahead, either in the short term or the long term, all right? But also, if someone, the tree board would say, look, we'd like to see an increase, and I'm making this up, folks. This is what I do sometimes. But say someone wants to ask for an increase of a budget. Well, then data helps understand. I've had a few cities that the value has been like $15 million. Then maybe only $5,000 a year has been devoted to tree care. So how do you keep up with a $15 million, estimated $15 resource? So right, numbers might help us understand some things too, and at least establish the monetary value. But in the end, I hope that with the data that you have, that you're gonna see, if you don't already, that your trees are infrastructure. And I'm not going into a lot of the environmental benefits in this. So where did we work on this inventory? Well, we looked at the street right-of-ways, and where there was not a sidewalk and a curb, we did our best. We talked to folks and said, hey, what's the right-of-way? So we either looked from the middle of the street or the back of the curb. So we did get our best guidance on that. We used water meters, we used utility poles, but we did our best to only try to include what we thought was in a right-of-way. And then in your two parks, the city park where your pool is, and then Sharon Park. So the data we collected was the type of tree, species of tree, condition of tree, and the size of the tree. Now, foresters use a term called DBH, and that means the height of the trunk at 4.5 feet off the ground. Well, some trees branch below 4.5 feet. So we also then collected below the swell of this branches. So we did our best to be at DBH, but we'll have to vary when we don't have a straight trunk all the way up to 4.5 feet. Okay, so why is species important? Well, it's in your plan, and we discussed it a lot, because when we have monocultures of trees, think about the American elm and how devastated communities were by losing the American elm to Dutch elm disease. We've had pine wilt in this state since 1979. And Scotch pine and Austrian pine in particular have just been hammered, and the populations have been wrecked with that. Well, so now in Kansas and 36 other states, we have an emerald ash borer. It's an exotic insect. Our ash trees have no natural defenses against it. So EAB has not been detected yet in your town or in Dickinson County, but it is as far as Shawnee County, Jackson County. So it's in the east. Thank goodness we've only detected it in contiguous counties, but who knows if it could be found in your county next year or anytime. It's an insect that may be in a community for a few years, but we can't see the damage until the trees really begin to show symptoms. So it could be around for a while and we just don't know it. So that's a current concern. And there's some others in the country that, having a very diverse, forest. And homeowners in presence, don't plant all the same trees in your yards either. Please, that's not a good idea. So condition, we have these condition categories, and I'm not gonna read into them. Just know that we rated trees based on good, fair, poor, dead, and dying, okay? And you have those definitions. And then the size, as I described. So what are some of the highlights? Well, under public properties, we notated about 429 trees, 48 different species. Hackberry is the most abundant of the total population at about 14% of the total. Silver maple about 12. Then eastern redbud, ornamental pear, and eastern red cedar were 7 and 6% on the last two. Well, so in the world of community forestry and urban forestry in this country, we've long followed this 20-20-30 rule for species composition, meaning no more than about 10% of the species, no more than about 20% of a genus. So when I say genus, I mean like maples genus is Acer, or oaks genus is Quercus. That's where I'm getting at, and then families. So with emerald ash borer, it's in the olive family. So if we wanted to analyze anything regarding to the olive family, we would go to that and look at the 30%. Well, so nationwide, with EAD being such a bad thing, other pests being such a bad thing, most people nationwide are saying we really need to get our thresholds for species abundance even less than that, okay? So understand I'm wavering a little bit on the 10-20-30 rule. Just the more different types of trees you have, the more you're guarding against any sort of catastrophic loss. That's the bottom line here. So then when you look at your condition, you see, a few percentage, 14 in good condition, several in fair condition, and then look at the poor and then the dead and dying. So your dead and dying percentage, that's actually pretty good. I've done more than 40 inventories over my years, and 1% is where most communities fall in. That's just how it is. We live in Kansas, we have droughts, we have storms. Cities never have enough money to do all their management. Trees don't always get pruned, there's storm damage, so that's really not a bad thing. Average diameter is about 16 inches, okay? And then this estimated value you see is based on a long-standing old equation. Those folks that are trained to be appraisers, they would call it the trunk formula. But I want you to see that by knowing the diameter of your trees, I utilize this formula that's on this part of your handout. So we took into consideration my Excel spreadsheet, runs it all out with the formulas, but basically we convert your trunk diameters to a square inch, go with a very conservative value of $32 a square inch on this case. Then we take into account the type of tree, the condition of the tree, and the location is always a static number. And I can explain that more detail later. Alright, so what I didn't know for sure, I kind of wavered on this next part. I knew that I had been here to help guide on some tree removal decisions over the years. So I was pretty sure you took care of tree removals along the city streets. I wasn't sure if you were regularly pruning. So this next statement was me not being sure, but if you weren't taking full control of your street trees, I wanted to encourage that, because I can tell you this, in the 40-something inventories that I've done, there is a clear difference in the condition of the trees when the city takes care of it and when they defer all of the costs of the street tree to the adjacent landowner. And I've got an inventory I'm not gonna talk about here, but it was a night and day difference. So, do you take care of all your street trees? That's my question. You do, don't you, right? You do the pruning, you prune, you do all your removals. And if you do that, great. Please continue that. If you aren't doing all of that, then all I'm gonna encourage you is to think long term. And think, how could we maybe get some annual pruning to your trees? And even if it takes you 10 years to prune all of your trees, it's better than never pruning your trees. And Mary spent time with me, Cheryl spent time with me. We could give illustrations of, boy, it would have been nice for that tree had been pruned at a younger age, okay? So that's my takeaway message on this. Do as much and control as much of the management as you can. And let's just look here at your silver maple percentage. I listed there the amount of the pore, their average diameter. So to have a 22-inch to 21-inch average diameter for a species means there's some really large diameter trees of that kind. And of course, there's several that are younger. So this is these two populations have a lot of larger trees. And there's one page in the longer report that will detail out which trees have that. Let's talk about the emerald ash borer. Again, it's in 12 counties in Kansas. We don't know if it's here. We'll know when it's found that it's here, but right now it's not detected. There's a insect called the Asian longhorn beetle in 4 states in the eastern part of our country, and maples might as well be candy to it. It has a large host preference. There are some that are more preferred, some trees that are more preferred. So when you look at that, you've got 24% of your total population is maple. That's what leads to my next recommendation of slowing down or coming nearly to a stop on your maple plantings, because we're above 20% for sure on the 10-20-30 rule for a genus. So be aware, that's another insect that if somebody doesn't clean their RV or they bring it carry firewood, then that's a problem that could be here. That's how so many forest health threats move in our country is firewood primarily. So we just don't know. That's maple would be what can be to it. The other thing I noticed is some of the maple trees were chlorotic, which means they were a little yellow, maybe they're not taking up iron because the soil is a higher pH. So we also would have to say, is maple really some of the maples I saw, are they really great choices anyway for this community? So maybe doing some soil testing somewhere down the road would be a good idea. People, if you lose some maples and you wanna look at replanting them. And I'm trying to hustle folks, I know. But anyway, here's my short term. Having an annual pruning cycle is important. How you tackle your removals, because we've got a list that Bill has. You're just gonna have to look at what resources you have, and we can guide you. The Forest Service has kind of a model that communities can use for, okay, we don't have enough money to remove all 6 of our trees, but we can remove these 4. So there's some of this guidance I'll do later on if you need it. But base everything you do on your resources and your policies while also looking ahead and saying, look, could we, and this is me being me, saying, look, maybe in 3 years we could bump our budget and maybe we could do more because we've had that time to plan. Remember, I've been on the fringe of this for a long time. So definitely plant new trees every year. But what the number you plant, that's all based on what your ability is to maintain. If you can only plant and water and mulch 5 trees a year and do that well, then that's what you do. Don't plant 20 and not be able to care for it. That's what I want to encourage you, and proactive management. So this next part, I just want you to know that I also ran your data through a model called, a program called iTree. iTree is freeware because it was developed with public dollars, so it's based on U.S. Forest Service research and supported by a lot of partners, and I've been using the iTree models for a long time. Well, so a lot of rural communities, they don't think that we have air quality problems, right? We think that's a big city problem. But we have a lot of particulate matter, right, that comes in from our fields, comes into our community. So I live north of a really small town. I'm definitely out in farm country, and I definitely feel it in my respiratory system when it's dry and the wind's blowing. So when you think about your trees and these ecosystem benefits that you're seeing here in this chart and on the last page of the long report, know that tree and tree canopies are so very beneficial to you in absorbing all the air pollutants, but also absorbing carbon dioxide and they pop, ozone, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, and particulate matter smaller than 2.5 microns. So that's what you're seeing here is another program that's calculating the benefits of your trees, okay? And I can explain that. I'm just trying to hustle for everybody's sake. So there's annual benefits of your trees, and then your store value is a one-time. Alright, so, you're returning as a Tree City USA community. I'm so proud of you for doing that. Wonderful. And Blaine is here from the Forest Service, and he'll be the person that you'll be working with next. Definitely, you can receive your application, and from here on out, work with that. I feel like I'm talking too long, so I will send the resource here that this model comes from, but what I want you to see with this diagram is just for affirmation that if you're planting trees, have a corresponding maintenance plan to go along with it. And if you do those two things really well, you're pruning, you're maintaining your trees, you're planting them right, you're selecting the right trees, then you're gonna positively affect how many trees you lose in storms that cause emergency management, like the police being called in the middle of the night, you got trees in the street. So all of this good tree care management, it all fits together, right? So hopefully we aren't removing as many limbs out of the street or trees out of the street. And then by doing that, then you're also improving, not having a lot of unexpected failures, right? So everything works together in harmony when we do all of these factors well, right? So, I put together this. I have evolved over the years. I used to never ask for time with leadership. And then I never used to do this. So this is really only my second time. But I thought, Cheryl and the tree board, what are some of the things that could be helpful? Because a 21-page report, that's a lot, right? So I put the priorities in here, and I'm not gonna read them all for the sake of time. But this is just guidance. This is what I'm suggesting and recommending the tree board and the city to look at in the near term and in the long term, right? But it's all in your report as well. So, I've hustled through this for the sake of knowing you have a really long meeting. But can I answer any questions while I am here? I'm happy to do so.
You said our dead and dying percentage was about normal. Was our poor higher than?
Well, so the poor is a little,
Is that pretty common?
it's there, it's a little high. So here's what I'm gonna say, is to strive to have more good condition trees, okay? Than any other category. There's a work to do there. But also to have fewer, fair, and poor condition trees. But you're not gonna get there overnight, right? And I'm not suggesting that can happen. But if you're looking ahead 10 years, 20 years down the road, then some of this movement, some of this change in the population can be possible. It's just planning, it's just knowing what your resources are, what you really can do feasibly, and then what you can do it well. That's really what this is. I'm never gonna dictate numbers to you. Nobody's gonna ever tell you, you must do this, you must plant this many trees, right? You have got to decide, this is what we can do well and we can do it successfully. And when you do that all successfully, and you're as proactive as you can be, you're gonna see a difference. I guarantee you will.
I think the other thing I learned from visiting with you was the number of trees that we have that have damage from lawnmowers that I had never even thought about.
So that's cultural, so that's part of the maintenance. So you plant these, you select the right tree, you plant it correctly, then it's also seeing to it that at least mulch is around it to keep mowers away, and we all need to do this right even in our own yard. But if you can't mulch everything, just safely use a herbicide and just keep the grass and weeds away. Because so many of the roots have been mowed over and damaged, well, that's how root decay begins. So if we can just keep damage from happening to the trunk and the roots, that's a great start. That's a wonderful start to reducing defects.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the wonderful friendship I've had with the city. I had 3 people from Chapman at my reception last night. So I wanna thank you all, and I wanna let you know I'm very proud of you as a city. I first met you after your tornado, and so I understand what you've been through. Just a lot of cities have challenges, but those of you that have really had a devastating event, just the resilience of your community, the wonderful people I've had to work with all these many years. Thank you for that.
Thank you.